Alright, so a bunch of title fights are about to happen in the UFC. I wanted to make individual breakdowns of some of them that are going to happen in the month of September, just like the Sean O'Malley one. And then the Makhachev fight that just got announced with Armin, the rematch for December 7th, just got announced literally like 30 minutes before I'm making this video. But I want to talk about every single champion in the UFC and how likely I think they are to lose their belt if they do, and who they lose it to. So we're going to start with heavyweight. Jon Jones. I think that, we all know that he's ducking Tom Aspinall, but the fact of the matter is, he may keep his belt until he retires. If he only fights Stipe and then retires directly afterwards, he's not going to drop the belt to Stipe Miocic. That's not going to happen. And we all know it's not going to happen. So the only way that I could foresee Jon Jones losing before he retires, if he doesn't call a career after he beats Stipe, is if he fights Tom, and that's not going to happen. But in a metaphorical instance where, say, like, that fight got scheduled and was happening tomorrow, I would say the most Jon Jones thing to happen in that matchup would be Tom Aspinall just gets really scared before he goes in the octagon and just does a really horrible job at fighting Jon, which I could see happening. I could see him getting scared and choking and just selling the bag in front of everyone. Or the more likely instance is, like, they get in there together, Jon Jones is trying to do his weird unorthodox striking, like minus 0.5 HP per shot that he lands, like flush on Tom. And Tom Aspinall just like heavy boxing combos, and Jon Jones starts panic wrestling. And I could see like a type of Curtis Blades, Jailton Almeida type sequence finishing that fight, where Tom Aspinall is either like elbowing him in the side of the head, or he's in on a takedown and there's like these hammer fists that land. I don't know. It could be something like that. That's what I'm thinking how the fight would go. I don't think that Jon Jones would be able to strike with Tom Aspinall. I think that the pressure and the boxing would be way too much for Jon. If he doesn't get sniped at range, he would eat like a good couple of shots and then just start trying to get in on takedowns, and he wouldn't be able to do it, and he'd probably get finished, I think. But it would be freaking just like Jon Jones to let everyone talk and then to come back and then win the fight in emphatic fashion, which would be bad for freaking Jon Jones haters and people who just want to see good people win, you know, because Jon Jones doesn't deserve to win title fights at this point with all the allegations and stuff. If you wanted to like make people's personal lives qualifiers for what they deserve in their professions, which isn't a fair thing to do anywhere else except for fighting, I guess. But if he did win, we'd have to literally watch a Dana White interview of him going,
you see, Jon Jones is the greatest fighter of all time. We saw what happened tonight. If you lock Jon Jones in a room with who people say is the most dangerous heavyweight of all time, only one person walked out of that room. It's Jon Jones.
Like, literally, Dana White might tell Herb Dean to take the night off and just have Jon Jones kill Tom Aspinall if he does win the fight. Like, he might just, like, if he sees like a choke get locked up by Jon, he might tell Herb Dean to just leave in the middle of the fight just so Jon Jones can kill him and he can prove a point. But I think that Jon Jones would drop the belt to Tom Aspinall, and I think he would get finished in that fight. I think that he probably finishes Stipe or wins a really boring decision. If he loses to Stipe, God almighty, that is literally the funniest thing that could happen. But I don't think it's a very likely outcome. So Jon Jones probably retains his title until he retires. Sad face. Light heavyweight, Alex Pereira. He's fighting Khalil Roundtree. Like, dude, what are we really even doing, to be honest? I get it, like, the UFC just needs, like, big fights to sell at this point, just because, like, a lot of superstars are leaving, or they're just getting older and not being able to compete at the top level. But, dude, why is he not fighting Ankalaev, bro? I don't know whose fault it is, bro. Like, at this point, I thought it was Ankalaev's fault for not wanting to fight in only, like, okay, I want to fight in Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia. No, as if he said, okay, I want to fight Alex Pereira in Saudi Arabia, and if we're not fighting there, then I don't want to fight, period. I'm not sure if he said that, bro. And they scheduled him against Rakic, and they gave freaking Alex Pereira Khalil Roundtree. Which is like, okay, if you want to test Magomed more before you give him a title shot, fine. But then don't give the champion Khalil Roundtree to fight, who's literally like freaking lost to like Dustin Jacoby, bro. That's the hardest thing for me to understand. The short story is Alex Pereira is not going to lose to Khalil Roundtree. Fucking spoiler alert, that's literally not gonna happen. Never in a million years was that ever going to happen, and we all knew it too. It's just, it cannot be. Like, that will not happen. So he's not going to drop the belt to him. If he does drop the belt to anyone in that weight class, it would be freaking Magomed. Magomed, one thing that people play up in that matchup, though, I will say, is his submission threat, which isn't really, like, anything. This guy doesn't get subs. But, dude, he's good at wrestling, and his ground control is good. His clinch control is good. And I could see him TKOing Alex Pereira. One thing that makes me nervous in the fight is that he said that he would knock him out on the feet, which, like, dude, you're not gonna fucking do that. And if you do try it, you're probably going to get slept brutally. So I don't know why he's like making this type of chit chat online, talking about he doesn't need his wrestling to win. Buddy, yes you do. And like, I would highly recommend that you did wrestle, because nobody wrestles, and all this dude has done throughout his career is just fight high-level kickboxers. So there's a very strong chance that he'll have an answer for whatever you pose to him on the feet. So don't fucking just stand and kickbox with him. I know Magomed Ankalaev is watching this right now. Dude, I need you to lock in and get this dub for the land, bro. Because I know you can do it. Aside from that, God, 205 is so washed, bro. Maybe like maybe we just get like 5 more Yuri rematches, you know? And maybe like out of any of those, like, what is it? Any of those 7 fights, he may be able to win one. I highly doubt that. 205 is washed. Alex Pereira is probably not dropping the belt. He most likely beats freaking Magomed, which sucks, but I'm riding with Magomed in that one, so I think that if he did drop the belt, it would be to Ankalaev, and that would happen in 2025, because they're both fighting already. Cool. 185, Dricus du Plessis. Dricus du Plessis is not about to drop this belt, bro. And I'm going to try my best to make this not like a Dricus Glaze video. But, like, dude, he is so good at fighting. Like, people, like, say that he's trash, and they're, like, frustrated by, like, how, like, successful he's able to be with, like, his limited skill set. But, dude, no, his boxing is tidy. And those blitzes that he does that look like drunk, he's, like, shoring those up more so that his shoulder is, like, covering his chin, and his hands are returning back to his face whenever he enters. So, like, it's very hard for him to get countered out of those blitzes, and they're super effective. And his wrestling is so good. And his kickboxing is good. Like, he was in this lead leg kick, or this lead high kick against Adesanya, and it was working so well. And I was like, dude, this guy is like a for real, like, super dynamic kickboxer. And like, aside from his style just being something that we've never seen before, I think that he is just super proficient at everything. And I think that that's what's going to make him be able to keep his belt for a long time. So, close fights that he would have, maybe, like, dude, because, like, my favorite prospects in middleweight, we got, like, Kyle Borralho, Roman Kopylov, Anthony Hernandez. All of those guys get beaten by du Plessis, bro. In the rematch versus Strickland, I really see it, like, I see du Plessis coming back with a better game plan. Because one thing that I will say is that he's a very high-level technician, and as far as, like, his game planning goes for fights, he figures out exactly how to beat his opponent. So with all of the film that he has of the Strickland fight, plus the other Costa fight as well, to look at more footage, I think that he'll have a better game plan, come out maybe with more grappling heavy offense, and I think that he'll put a pace on Strickland to break him. I think that we'll see Sean Strickland potentially get finished in this rematch, so that's what I'm going to go with. Dricus du Plessis is going to retain his title. At welterweight, Belal Muhammad. This is a funny situation. Belal is good. He's really good, but he's old. And that's the only thing that, like, puts an asterisk next to him being able to hold on to this belt. Because I really like Belal Muhammad. I knew that he would beat Leon Edwards. I had this feeling, like, even now, I feel like he would beat Usman. I feel like that's not even a crazy thing to say. Like, Leon Edwards beat Usman, Belal Muhammad's beat Leon Edwards. MMA math doesn't really apply, but just based off of, like, the strength of resumes and, like, their latest performances and styles, bro, I feel like Usman would have a hard time with Belal, and he'd probably lose the fight, especially if it was like a 3-rounder, like against Hamzat. I feel like
Bilal would probably win that fight more decisively, which is like a crazy thing for some people to hear, but I think it's facts, bro. So as far as people who threaten his title holding, I would say the number one guy is probably JDM. JDM's boxing is freaking dirty, and I think that he could knock out Bilal Muhammad pretty easy too. Granted, there are a correct set of circumstances, like he doesn't break his freaking arm in the first round of their fight like he did against Gilbert Burns. If he can stay healthy and just freaking do his thing, I feel like those combos that he was throwing at Kevin Holland would land on Bilal Muhammad and they'd probably knock him out, which sucks because I like Bilal, but I like JDM too, so I wouldn't really even be mad if either of those guys won that fight. But they're gonna push Shavkat right to the title. I don't really agree with that. I am kind of a Shavkat hater. I think that he has Neil Magny, Jeff Neal, and Wonder Boy on his resume, and like that's kind of it. And people will think that he's like this crazy world beater. I don't think that's exactly fair, honestly, whenever he has been relatively untested. I really think it's just because he wears the funny hat and there's the picture of him sitting in the chair with the wolf skins on it that people are like super hard on glazing him. But I don't really see it. I mean, I do see it, but I don't really understand it just based off of like what we've seen so far. I think that he could beat Bilal if that's what they do give Bilal next, Shavkat. I think that's very possible that Shavkat becomes champion, but I don't think this guy beats JDM. I think that JDM's boxing is too tidy, and I think that he could knock out Shavkat. So ultimately, whichever like hands these belts pass towards, I mean, we also got guys coming up the rankings too, like Prates. We got Ian Gary, who I don't think will be a champion, and then we've got Joaquin Buckley as well. That's another guy who's like, people have been sleeping on him, but he's going to be making waves too. I just don't think that there's any other outcome ultimately that gets reached through the belt passing hands than JDM becoming champ. So that's what I'm going to go with. JDM champion. My God, there's a freaking garbage truck outside and it is so loud. So we're just going to go on to the next one. Islam Makhachev. I mean, dude, Islam Makhachev is going to beat Arman Tsarukyan for the second time, and then he's going to become the greatest lightweight in history. And then after that, I mean, I'm not even sure if challenging for double champ is something that would make sense for him. Say if like, I mean, maybe it would, bro. It just depends on who gets the belt. Like if Shavkat becomes champion, I'm not sure if it's smart for him to go up and challenge that. Just because there is like a crazy size difference. And we saw that mattered whenever he fought Volkanovski. But against a guy like JDM, that might be an interesting fight. Even against Shavkat, that might be an interesting fight if he can get the wrestling going, which he probably could. So I would say that like Islam, by the time that the year is over, instead of dropping the belt, he's literally going to probably be looking at double champ status. If not like fighting Ilya or something, like a guy from a lower weight class, a champion. But he's going to be holding on to the belt for a while, and he'll have options as far as like which fights he gets and takes. So that's going to be my pick for lightweight. Featherweight, Ilia Topuria is literally going to have a Volkanovski type reign, I feel like, over featherweight. I feel like he is so good. His fight against Max Holloway, I don't think that belt is going to trade hands. I think that he's literally going to beat the crap out of Max Holloway. I was watching the homie MMA Guru the other day, and he was talking about like styles make fights, right? Which is like something that we're all on the same page about. But he had said that like Gaethje was a style that was like made to be beaten by Max Holloway. And that was kind of interesting to hear and to think about, because I kind of agree. I do agree. Because Max beats Gaethje, which is a perfect stylistic matchup for him, you can't just think that Max is going to beat another horrible matchup for him, where it's literally just as evenly stacked in Ilya's favor against Max Holloway as Max Holloway's odds against Gaethje were. And I agree with that a lot. So that's basically what I'm going with here in taking the pick of freaking Ilia Topuria over Max Holloway. These heavy hands, bro, and the low kicks, dude, and the grappling as well. All of like the weak points of Max Holloway's game are going to be exploited, I feel like. And that's really interesting for us to watch play out, especially since there's a lot of hype around this fight too. Because Max Holloway is going to struggle with the heavy, like clinical boxing that like Dustin Poirier was giving him in their fight. And like, bro, if you remember, Max Holloway he basically got dropped by DP in that fight. He like fell on the cage and then got up. But like, dude, that heavy, clinical, like technical, tidy boxing is going to be a problem for him. And there's power in all of those shots. And they're going to come in like a huge like mass as well. There's going to be a huge freaking like volley of punches every so often that Max Holloway is going to have to deal with. And I don't think that he's going to be able to move well enough to evade or like create openings to snowball and get his own damage going on Ilya while he's just getting walked down the whole time. So Ilya's going to retain that belt. The only threat that I would say would be freaking Holloway, and we'll see how that goes, but I think that Ilya is going to win soundly as well. Bantamweight, Sean O'Malley. Bro, we need to put some respect on Sean O'Malley's name. I said before I don't want to make this a DDP Glaze video, but like, I'm going to make this instead of Sean O'Malley's Glaze video. Like, dude, how is he an underdog against Merab, bro? We literally watched Merab's jaw get spun around like a fucking disco ball by Henry. Henry literally almost chinned Merab. If he didn't hit like a freaking, like an infant toddler baby, he literally would have knocked out Merab with that left hook. And that was just off of the break. There's going to be clinching in this fight. They may like even stand at range, and Sean O'Malley does just like some goofy like hand movement like he did with Eddie Wineland and just slumps him out cold. I think it's going to be an embarrassing finish like that. I think that it's going to be super emphatic. People are going to, they're going to start glazing O'Malley, bro, because he's going to have us like, he'll have beaten Chito Vera, which is not really that good of a win, Aljamain Sterling, and Peter Yan, bro, and Merab Dvalishvili. That would literally make his resume the best in bantamweight history. Undeniable GOAT status for him. He's just kind of cringe, so we all sleep. But Sean O'Malley is really like that. I think that he'll retain his title into 2025, and it's very possible, and like something that I want to see too, that he goes up and fights Ilya, because that would just be like, that would be probably the greatest fight that the UFC could produce right now. So as soon as they can make it make sense, I want them to make it happen, please. And I think that both of them will hold their belts up until they do meet eventually. So I'm excited for that. And then flyweight, Pantoja. I would say Pantoja's only real threat is going to be Tatsuro Taira. Aside from that, like, he's pretty much fought and beaten everyone else too. Maybe Kai Kara France gets in there and does something, but I just don't think so, to be honest. But maybe he's having like a career resurgence. I'm really sad over the fact that Usyk got knocked out. I mean, if we're being like fair, Usyk pretty much did win that fight against him. But, you know, if ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a wonderful holiday season. So Pantoja is the final boss of flyweight. He is more than likely going to end 2024 as champion, not lose his belt. We need more contenders in this weight class. It would be crazy if Tatsuro Taira did come in and win and become champion. I'd be down for that, but I just don't see it happening personally. So yeah, that's going to be the full list of all the people that I think are going to be champion at the end of 2024 and in 2025. And the champions who are current, like in their next matchup, who I think that they may win or lose to. Who do you think are the dark horses of these divisions? Like, who do you think is going to get one up on a champion that everyone favors to win? Please let me know in the comments.